This is the Biz News Podcast, one-on-one conversations with experts in business and personal development.
We've heard about IQ and EQ. Now, says veteran executive coach Hilary DeCesare, there's HQ. She says she's using it to help women facing the issues of midlife to transform careers to higher levels, using new brain patterns that shed limiting beliefs. Hilary DeCesare explains more in this Biz News Interview podcast.
I really have had what I call multiple relaunches in my life, which I'm sure people can resonate with, right now and relate to. And it really started being a girl in the Silicon Valley trying to keep up with the boys club at that time. I started in big corporate, Oracle, almost 10 years. And then I got the passion for helping other CEOs, other entrepreneurs really take their businesses and up-level them. It used to be called consulting. Today it's called coaching. I happen to have done it for probably now 2 decades, and I've never given it up because I have found that I have a gift to help elevate and fire people up to their highest level. And I use a method that I think is unique and different. It's called 3HQ, 3-step process, but oh my gosh, wealth of creating your own power supply, your own power source of being able to lean in.
You're not talking about having 3 headquarters to report to, are you?
I love that. So no, I'm not. It's really about having one command center that consists of 3 specific areas that are all within you, which is the head, the heart, the higher self. And how you, when you're operating on full tilt, moving things forward, things are going, manifesting is happening, law of attraction is happening, law of resonance is happening, and things are starting to really come your way. But then life gets in the way, right? Doug, this is what happens, where all of a sudden you have another transition, you have another something that happens, whether it's a global relaunch, that's going on right now worldwide, whether it's a business relaunch, whether it is a personal relaunch. And how do you deal with all these different things that can literally flatten you out or build you up?
So, how does a manager deal with all of these demands? Sometimes it seems like we're just the fire department running around, putting out one fire after another.
Well, that's really, it's very interesting that you use that word, because we often talk about people in today's world feeling very much like they're dull, like their spark has burned out. You have the Great Resignation, you have people, the quiet quitters, you have pandemics, you have financial crisis, you have so many things that are going on. And the way that leadership has always been is it's been very head based. It's been very like, hey, let's do 360 reviews. Let's, make sure that we are, hitting our revenue numbers. And it's the go, go, go mentality. And in today's world, it's moved from the head to the heart. It's moved from people now waking up saying, you know what, it's not the Great Resignation, it's the Great Realization, like realizing that where I've gotten to at this point in my life isn't necessarily where I want to be, and modifying that and changing it, which means management, leaders, CEOs, all the way at the top, we have to be now thinking differently. We have to be looking at management differently. And when you think about even, what's happening in Fortune 100 companies, they are now bringing in actual time periods where they are allowing people to learn more about meditation. They're allowing people to learn more about accessing and leveraging your intuition, because it's about really your employees, your team are the most important asset, even before your customers. Because if your people are not operating at their highest level, their energy is what's going out to your clients, and they're potentially losing opportunities based on where they are.
You're directing some of this toward the midlife relaunching by women. Would you talk a little bit about that?
Well, it's interesting because I heard Brene Brown said it so well. She said, "What's midlife? Midlife is 35 until you're dead." That's what encompasses this. And I laughed like you just did. But here's what's just come out in the news actually this morning that said now expectancy in the US has actually decreased. And so now even the 35 is starting to be questioned. It might even be lower. But when I talk to a lot of individuals, my one-on-one coaching clients, people that I work with in corporate, people, entrepreneurs, what we find is that there is this idea of crisis, of things happening like, oh my gosh, this is, there's so much coming into me. There is that idea of midlife crisis, but guess what? It's not midlife crisis that's happening to people. It's an identity crisis that's really happening. It's, again, where you think you should be at this point in your life. If you're not there, there's an identity crisis that's happening. And that's what our 3HQ actually helps solve. It is that power source behind your feeling of like, what the heck am I supposed to do next?
So go into that in a little more detail, if you don't mind. How does it get somebody off of square one to at least the next square?
Well, again, it's a three-step process, and I'd love to be able to share very high level with you. The three steps are the head, step one, heart, step two, and higher self, your best version of you. That's step three. And so when you look at your head, we've been living in a very heady economy. We've been living in a world of it's all about IQ, right? IQ was the thing of the 60s, 70s, 80s, and it still is the way a lot of corporations are running their business. It's about, the thought processes. It's about, your thoughts are actually bringing you down. They're changing your projected future. A thought and an emotion repeated over time create your belief system. All right. Good, bad, and ugly. You might have great beliefs that are empowering. Hey, I'm a really good communicator. Oh, I'm a really good, salesperson. Or you might have the opposite. I'm the worst at sales. I'm a terrible marketer. I'm whatever it is. And when you start to think about your thoughts and your emotions repeated over time, creating the belief, guess what? What most people don't realize is your identity cannot be any higher than your belief system. So when you talk about that, when you talk about your belief system and your identity, and you're sitting here, we're talking about midlife crisis, and I'm saying it's an identity crisis, that would lead you to understand that we need to be changing our belief systems. And how do you do that? Well, neuroscience says it's not something that you can will yourself to be able to do. You have to actually do the work. Now, for some of us, the actual like belief might have started when you were young. Well, let's say you're 40 or you're 50, and it started from a conversation, a comment that was made to you that you didn't even think it was a big deal. And it became this consistent, repeating over time type of belief. And what I want to say is now you've lived with it for 45, 50, 55 years, and you think it's going to be eliminated overnight by willpower, and it can't. In neuroscience, we know that it takes 62 to 67 days to break down a limiting belief so that you can actually see it on a scan. It's called synaptic pruning, where it breaks away and a new empowering belief can take shape. It is a remarkable process. And what I call this is you've got bugs, beliefs underground surfacing, bugs, beliefs underground surfacing. And what we need to do is come in like Ghostbusters, but we call them belief blaster. And there's a step-by-step process to take you through getting rid of that limiting belief so you can increase your identity. And that's the first part of 3HQ. That's the first part of creating your personal power, that personal power that's within you. But we've kind of like, as you said, it's like we've taken our flame out. We've put the container over it like a firefly, and we've like extinguished it.
You mentioned as one of the H's, the heart. Pardon the pun, but that sounds rather squishy.
Okay, which is what most people think about. But when you think about the very first language that you ever learned, think about what everyone that's listening, what's the first language? You might be thinking it's English, you might be thinking it's Italian, it's French, it's Spanish, whatever it is. And I have to tell you, that's not it. The first language that you ever learned was your intuition. And when you think about in vitro, a baby can, feel into her mother. And a lot of times, even then, that becomes, your thoughts and emotions start to form then. We know this scientifically. This is not just me saying this. Well, then we come into this world, and the first thing we're taught is, these are the steps, these are the programs, this is what you need to do. Be a good girl, be a good boy, you're being a bad boy. And we start to lose that connection with our intuition. And it is your connection, it is your voice to hear the inner rights, the inner wrongs, to be able to allow us. We often talk about women's intuition. Well, where's men's intuition? What happened there? Men's intuition is because they were squashed down. Don't share your emotions. Don't show this. Don't show that. But what's happening now, Douglas, and I don't know if you're Doug or Douglas, but I like Douglas too. My grandfather was Douglas, so I'll continue saying that. But what I want you to know is that what happens when we try to work only from our head is that our intuition comes through in our heart. And so why are we pushing down what we genuinely have as one of the best tools out there for sales, for success, for you talk about wanting to get that, that manifest, that dream outcome of an entrepreneur job where you're working 4 days a week or you have the greatest relationship. It's about tapping back into what's innately ours. And when you have that, when you have your head and your heart working together, it's not mushy, it's not squishy. You're actually then and only then able to connect to your power source, that higher self, that higher
Hilary,
level.
have you found this tough to teach?
Actually, the easiest part of this is when I ask people about their own personal power. Most people feel that they've given it all away. They've given it to their parents, they've given it to their work, they've given it, it's gone. They don't even have it within themselves anymore. And I say I've got a something called the 3HQ that brings you back to that power source that allows you to tap back into, you have all the answers within you. We just, we're constantly looking to be saved. We're constantly looking to, find the answers outward, where in fact, when you can start to understand, you have your purpose, you have your why, you have all these great things within you, you then show up as a better employee, you show up as a happier entrepreneur, you show up as a better spouse, as a better partner. And so when you think about 3HQ, it's simple. Get out of your head, get into your heart so that you can tap into your higher self, where you have your energy, where you have your purpose, where you have your G zone, I call it, your greatness, your growth, your gratitude. That's living. That's success on all counts, not just I have success in my business, but my marriage is failing. This is when you hit on all three areas of you.
You must have a website where our listeners and viewers can get more information. What is it?
I do, and it is at therelaunchco.com, www.therelaunchco.com. And you can hear about the book I recently wrote, Relaunch, Spark Your Heart to Ignite Your Life. The 3HQ is all identified in there. It talks about bugs, belief blasters. It gives you a worksheet to go through. And you can also follow us on Instagram at therelaunchco.com.
What would you like to add that we have not yet talked about?
Oh, everything is based around energy. Everything. And when you are bringing a low level of energy and there is shame or blame or you're not happy with, where you are, that is what you attract. And it's not as simple as the law of attraction where you're trying to pull something in. It's literally about how can you resonate with what you're putting out there at a higher level, so you're bringing in that higher level job, that that spouse, that partner that you are literally at the same level with. Not one is higher than the other, because when you do that, that's when alignment happens. So elevate your energy and you will elevate your life.
You've been watching the Biz News Podcast. We welcome your input. Send your email to editor@biznews.com. Thanks for watching.